Hello, I'm Mr. J, and I'm going to be explaining a subject that I've been irritated about for a while, and something that many people get onto me about, which is I build by hand. And as you can see in the background, that's what I'm doing now on Windows 10, and that's just an ironic thing. I didn't even mean to plan that, but I also build using World Edit and tools. And I would sort of want to explain the point of view of each person, because this is something that's actually been irritating not just myself, but quite a few other people, because many people sort of patronize each other because they use tools or because they build by hand. Or maybe they only build in survival, but it's just dependent on their point of view. Now, in the tweet that really inspired me to really do this, Pearlescent Moon retweeted something that mentioned about people commenting on her videos about how she uses add-ons and tools to assist her in her building process. And really, that's perfectly a good thing for her to do. There is no reason for her not to. For other people, yeah, some people shouldn't use tools, and some people shouldn't use add-ons, but she should use tools and should use add-ons for certain reasons. Now, I'm going to be explaining that in a little bit, but I just want to mention that, she has a great YouTube channel, and I would recommend watching it, and I'll have a link in the description. I know I'm not a very big YouTuber, but if you want to see some good videos, just give her some support. She has some great stuff. Watch some of her stuff. Really, really nice. Some great tutorials. I haven't seen very many of her tutorials, but I know they're pretty good. And then she also has some really good time-lapse videos for sure, which can help you learn how to build better, so recommend that. Anyways, let me explain the different points of view each person so that people don't get irritated as easily, because the person that commented on her video was very irritated, and it sort of seemed like that person was trying to degrade her work, when really that's not what the person should have been doing. They took things out of contrast. The person didn't understand the point of her point of view, and I sort of want to explain all the different points of view so that people stop getting irritated, because whenever you get irritated at each other because of some reason, it makes it hard to explain each point of view, because whenever one person's irritated, it gets the other person irritated. When both of you are irritated, you're not going to listen to each other. So I want this to be more of a calm explanation of why these people do what they do, because I've been in all those shoes. I used to be a survival only player, and I used to be an Xbox One Edition builder, and then now I'm a Bedrock builder and a Java builder. So I've just been in all the different kinds of shoes of everyone, from whenever I used to be a player, and I used to be a player on Java and built stuff using World Edit and stuff. But anyways, let's explain the survival point of view real quick, because that's a bit of a separate thing. Survival players don't necessarily care if they finish. There's more unfinished survival worlds than unfinished creative worlds, and that's not because of how long it takes. That is not the reason. The reason why is because they don't care if they finish. They really don't. Whenever you look at survival worlds, there's so many that have been around for 2 years or longer, and it's not because it's taking so long to build. It's mainly just because they don't care if they finish. They're enjoying the process of creating. They don't care if they finish. And that's the point. So for them, it would make no sense to build in creative mode. And whenever people say, in that position, when in that point of view, they are correct. They should only be building in creative mode, because that's the thing they enjoy, is the process of creating. Not creative mode, but in survival mode. Yeah, there we go. For them, it makes perfect sense for them to build in survival mode, because the process is more enjoyable. However, for someone that enjoys creating something and enjoys it to be created and for it to have a finish, then creative mode would make more sense. So that's why there's so many survival worlds that have been around for 6 years or 3 or 2, 5, however many years, is because it doesn't matter if it finishes. They don't care if they finish it. They just enjoy making it, which is the point. So for them, that's why they say that you should only build in survival mode, because that is the proper way of doing it. Because for them, that is the proper way of doing it. And that's how they should be building, and that's how they feel, which is proper, because they enjoy it so much more. They get more gratification out of it that way. Whenever they build in creative mode, they say that it feels like it's cheating or whatever. They don't get as much gratification. It's because they don't want it to be finished necessarily. They don't want it to be finished. And that's why they don't feel gratified. They don't feel gratified. They don't feel like they don't get as much emotional satisfaction, not because they're cheating. It's not because if you're cheating building in creative mode that it's not satisfying. It's because you don't enjoy for it to be finished. That's why many of you, and I used to be the same way, that's why creative mode feels like it's cheating. It's because you don't enjoy it to be finished. You just want the process. You want it to take a long time. So that's why many of you feel like creative mode's cheating, which really it's not cheating. Because the reason why you're building in creative mode, most people at least, also remember this is generalizations. Everyone has a different reason to build, so don't take this as law. It's just a generalization, so many of you may not agree. But anyways, so for creative mode, there's a lot of people that do also enjoy the process of creating, and it is obvious whenever they're like that, because generally they have a world that's like 2 years old or 6 years old. Like someone that I know, they have a world that's 7 years old that they've been building in creative mode for a very, very long time, and they don't necessarily want it to be finished. Well, in certain parts they might, but for the most part they don't want to be finished. They just want to create in the world, and that they enjoy the process. But in creative mode, many people enjoy the process of it being completed. They just want it to be complete. They don't care about the process really, even though I did say just say process. They enjoy it to be finished. And that's the part they enjoy, is the finished product. They want to see it done. They want it to be finished. They don't really care about it being like the process, which is important because then it makes no sense for them to build in survival mode if they want it to be finished. And for a survival person, it makes no sense to build in creative mode. And that's where the point. You're both right. Because it is the proper way for you, but it might not be the proper way for someone else, because it's just how you build and the reason why you build. So for that creative builder, they want to be finished, as mentioned. So for them, it's just the proper way of doing it. And emotionally, they feel emotional gratification when it's done, not while it's being created. They don't really get gratification. They don't enjoy, they'll enjoy creating it, but they get the most satisfaction when it's done. And that is sort of the point. That's whenever they get their gratification. That's when they get to enjoy their build, is when they feel like it is done or completed, and then they smile. They don't necessarily smile a whole lot. I mean, they will. They'll enjoy the process of creating, but not as much as it being completed. And that is why, for them, that is the way you're supposed to build, is in creative mode with the tools or whatever. And many people, especially whenever and this is where it gets a little bit confusing right here, because then you're thinking, well, everyone that builds in creative mode must love tools and must love this and the add-ons and the programs and all that, because it helps them finish sooner. Well, then at the same time, they're in between. They also enjoy the process of creating, and they feel like that's how it's supposed to be done. They feel like they have to do it by hand because they feel like that is how it is supposed to be done. So they're in the middle a little bit. They want it to be completed, but they also want it to be done properly, and the way they feel like is proper is doing it by hand, because they want to make sure that they touch every single block. They want to make sure it is perfect. It's like an extreme perfectionism kind of thing. They want to be perfect, and this is where it gets in a bit of a gray area, because, if someone enjoys something being finished, then you would think that they would enjoy tools, but it's in the middle, because as I mentioned, there's also a lot of worlds that have been built by hand by people that have also been around for multiple years. It's because they enjoy the process of creating, but they also enjoy things to be finished as well. They're like in this mid-ground kind of deal. So whenever they're doing it, they get gratification by doing it by hand, like doing it block for block. They get gratification the same way as a survival person does. So in their shoes, that is the proper way they're supposed to do it, and it makes sense for them to build by hand. However, for someone that pretty much only enjoys something to be finished, well, maybe not only, but they'll say they are even more towards the side of wanting things to be finished, they also enjoy the process of creating, but not as much as the person that is doing it by hand. They would want to use tools and want to use these programs and stuff. But then at the same time, this is where there's a gray area, a lot more of a gray area than in other situations. And that is because in this situation, you need to learn how to build by hand before you use tools. And I say that, well, may not need, because, for example, if you're just building for fun, you can do whatever you want. You can download a map. You can download a map and play on that map And it's perfectly fine because you're only doing it for fun. That's the reason why you're doing it. If you're only doing it for fun, then it doesn't matter what you do. You could use World Edit or whatever tool. You can use Blender, anything you want to make the project that you're doing. It doesn't matter. But whenever you're trying to learn how to build better, there's many situations where you're going to be using tools and stuff, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, you're going to have to use the old ways of building. Not really old, but you're going to have to do something by hand, using the standard ways that you generally would build just by hand. And if you didn't necessarily get used to doing it that way, or let's say you're not really quick at it, it's going to take you longer to build with tools than if you didn't use tools. Like I know that in a build battle that's timed, in some situations, in some rare situations, it would actually be faster to build by hand than to use World Edit. Now it's a very, very slim margin, and it depends on the skill level of the builder as well. Like if you have a really skilled builder that's building a house in creative mode block by block by hand, and then you have someone who's building the exact same house using tools, but they're not as skilled with those tools and with by hand stuff, they're not going to be as quick. And it's not going to make you massively faster using tools. I mean, sort of. It really depends on the situation, because some things are super big, and filling up an entire wall that's like 1,000 by 1,000, or like a floor that's 1,000 by 1,000, that would take forever. So, well, not really forever, but it would take a very long time. So in that situation, obviously it'd be faster, but there's a very sort of slim margin where it can be faster built by hand because of the difficulty of doing stuff by hand, and then that person having to build by hand because the tools don't allow you to do certain things. So in that situation, a beginner builder should learn some basic techniques of building by hand just to get them started. They don't need to become a master at building stuff by hand. They just need to learn how to build by hand and get the general idea and learn how to do it, and possibly learn how to do like 3D lines and stuff like that. Maybe they don't necessarily need to learn how to build a 3D, I say 3D cube, but like a rotated cube on 3 axes. Something that's rotated on 3 axes is really difficult, so I wouldn't expect a beginner to even want to attempt to do that, or even someone who's like a really good builder generally try to avoid those because they're quite difficult to do, especially by hand. So in that situation, there's going to be a bit of some caveats there. So whenever you're learning, just standard rule, just get some of the stuff by hand, learn how to do it, suffer through it for a couple months, learn how to build by hand, and then after those couple months, then start using tools, and you'll probably find that there is a pretty big difference. Hopefully, I'm not entirely sure. For me, I feel like there's a pretty big difference. But it really depends. It also helps you with your patience as well. So building by hand is just all around a pretty useful thing to do, because it does, in my opinion, it helps beginners quite a bit just to get started and to learn some of those basic techniques as mentioned, and then doing it using the tools. The thing is that for experienced builders, using tools, it makes perfect sense because they already know how to build the circles. So there's no point for them to build a circle, because they already know how to do it. It's going to turn out identical. And this is where, let me explain this real quick. What I'm about to explain now will actually go into the parts where you can cheat. There is a point where you can cheat using tools and add-ons. But for example, for Pearlescent Moon, when she uses a circle generator, it's not cheating. But let's say if a beginner that just started building and was trying to build a house or an organic and used a circle generator and they didn't know how to build a circle, they would be cheating because they don't know how to build a circle. So basically, how you can define cheating for yourself, whether or not you cheated. For other people, it's more difficult to tell if someone else is cheating because you don't know their skill. It's pretty difficult to actually tell when someone cheats and when they don't cheat whenever they're using tools. So for example, for a beginner, if they use a circle generator and they don't know how to build a circle, it's cheating because they don't know how to do it. So basically, let's take an example for myself and with, Ross Draws. Ross Draws is an amazing artist, and he does a lot of YouTube videos. He has a lot of really good stuff. And he takes pictures of himself and he morphs the pictures into whatever character he's attempting to do. Now, if I did that, I would be cheating because I don't know anatomy well enough. For him, it's not cheating. In fact, that's like an industry standard whenever it comes to professional artists, is to use photographs, especially photographs that you take, and manipulate it into the finished product that you want. The thing is that the finished product would look identical no matter if you used the photo or if you didn't use the photo. The photo just makes it quicker and faster to complete. So in that situation, you're gonna end up with the exact same results no matter if you use the picture or if you don't use the picture. It's gonna turn out the exact same. And that is the point of the situation. That is whether or not you're cheating. Basically, if you use a tool, like for example for myself, if I took a picture, it wouldn't look the same as if, like, it wouldn't look the same. If I tried making a picture and I used a photograph to help me, it wouldn't look the same because the one with the picture would probably look a little bit better because I don't know anatomy well enough. So for me, it'd be cheating to use a photograph. For Ross Draws, no. For a beginner, if they use a circle generator, it'd be cheating because they don't know how to build a circle. Because it's not going to turn out the same. Basically, if you do it by hand and it would look identical to how it looks whenever you use World Edit, that's when you know that you're not cheating, is if it's going to look identical either way because of your skill level. So that is something that's quite important. That's how you can tell if you are cheating yourself, because other people might not notice if you cheated, but you should know whenever you do that whether or not you're cheating yourself out of learning, because whenever you do that, it's going to prevent you from learning as much. Because if I used a photo like how Ross Draws uses a photo, I wouldn't learn anatomy as quickly. So then it would actually hurt my education. Not really hurt, but I would learn, and I would grow because of that, but I wouldn't grow as much as if I actually studied anatomy and I did it more actively. So that's when you can sort of tell when you're cheating. And Pearlescent Moon is not cheating whenever she uses tools and add-ons to create her stuff. In the same way with myself, whenever I use tools and add-ons, I'm not cheating as well. I know how to do stuff by hand. I've been doing a lot of stuff by hand, so I definitely know how to build circles and diagonal stuff as well. So in that situation, you sort of have to be careful, because that's something that you can so easily do, is just cheat yourself out of learning, and other people might not notice, but you should notice yourself. So that is something that I would recommend doing. And also, I'll have a link to Ross Draw's channel in the description as well, because he has some great videos. And then you can also get a feel for how, for him, it's not cheating to use that process. For me, it would definitely be cheating, because I don't know anatomy well enough. So hopefully this has explained it so that you can understand each person's point of view, because getting mad at each other is just not going to help at all. So hopefully, this will help you, and I hope that this can sort of help dissolve the problem, because you're all right in your own way because of how you enjoy to build, and how that changes your perception of how Minecraft should be played. That's what's happening. You're all correct in your own way, and trying to say someone else is wrong, yeah, they're sort of wrong, but only in your mind. In their mind, they are right, and in my mind, I think you're all correct, because you're all correct because of the reason why you build. Now, obviously, some of this was sort of generalized because not everyone enjoys the process of creating that builds in survival. Some people do want stuff to be done more quickly in survival, but hopefully this bit of a generalization sort of explains that, that person that plays in survival, that only plays in survival, is right. That's how he is supposed to build. The same way for someone who only builds by hand. In their situation, they are right to do that, and that is the proper way for them to build. And then for someone who builds using World Edit, hopefully this explains whether or not you should or shouldn't be using World Edit. But as mentioned, Minecraft is fun. Okay, it's a wonderful game, and you can get to create so much amazing stuff. Like, what is the point of complaining about these small little things? I'm just saying, if you're just doing it for fun, do whatever you want to do. Use Blender, use programs, do whatever you want to do. Just know that you're doing it for fun, and there are different reasons for why you build changes the way you build. So I hope this has helped you all learn something about building, possibly been educational, and I hope that you learn something new, because this is an important topic to me, especially since I build some stuff by hand and I also use World Edit. I don't think there's really anything else I need to explain. That's pretty much it. Hope you have a great, wonderful, sublime, fantastic day, and God bless.